Philippians 4:13 might be the most misunderstood and misapplied verse in the entire New Testament. In modern day, you see professional athletes use Philippians 4:13 as a type of way to, jack themselves up, or almost like a guarantee that they can achieve great things in whatever sport they're playing. For example, there's an NBA player playing right now who every game he writes Philippians 4:13 on his shoes for every game that he plays. My favorite example of this is an Ultimate Fighting fighter who had this verse tattooed on his chest, right? Philippians 4:13. Then he gets into the ring and he beats the tar out of a guy. Is that what that verse means? That Jesus is going to give him the strength to beat the tar out of his opponent, or to hit 3-point shots in basketball? Is that what that verse is promising us? I don't think so. But as usual, the context of any particular verse in the Bible helps us understand what a singular verse is meaning. And so in chapter 4 of Philippians, Paul is telling the Philippians that he has been through the ringer. And actually, he's writing this letter even to them from a jail cell. And the Philippians have been kind enough to help him in several practical ways to get through all the difficult things that he's been through. But ultimately, Paul says that even if they weren't to help him, he can be content because of his faith in Christ. So it doesn't matter if he's suffering or if he's having the greatest time of his life. No matter what is happening to him, he can do all things through Christ who strengthens him. So far from being a promise that you can play a great game of basketball or whatever, Philippians 4:13 is a reminder that our contentment comes from being in Christ, not from playing a great game of basketball. This verse is not a promise that you can do whatever you want just as long as you believe in Jesus enough. Rather, it is a promise that if you find your contentment in Christ, you will be strengthened to get through any circumstance, no matter how hard it might be. And that's really interesting if you start to think about it, because the application of Philippians 4:13 then isn't for before or while you're playing a game of basketball. It's for after you've just been creamed by the other team and you've lost by 40 points and you lost it for your whole team and you feel like a complete loser. That's when you need Philippians 4:13 and to apply that verse to your life. Because that's when you need to remember the truth of that verse and that your contentment is found in Christ, not in playing a great game of basketball or in succeeding in any other way in your life. Or when you're suffering in some way, maybe like how Paul suffered, right? And the suffering is very unpleasant. You need to remind yourself that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Now, that doesn't mean that you'll ultimately gain victory over those circumstances, but rather that those circumstances can't steal your joy in Christ. If your contentment comes from Christ in life, you can do all things through Christ. Nothing else can take your contentment or your joy because those are found in Christ. So this verse is not a promise that all of your wildest dreams are going to come true if only you believe in Jesus hard enough or you'll make all your three-pointers or whatever. But rather, it's a statement about the joy and contentment that we find in Christ no matter what the circumstances of our life may be. We can do all things through Christ who gives us strength because our contentment, our joy, is in Him.